Yellow Cap Guards. It was about a year later, in late summer, and closing in on dusk. The guards were meeting the Yellow Caps in the outskirts of Seattle, the part where the suburbs seemed to have been broken before they died. Nobody lived in these houses anymore. There were plenty of nicer ones to choose from. Chase was 10, and he was part of Ron's squad, which had been picked to lead one of the guards that were going to escort the Yellow Caps to the night market. Cars were parked all down the gravel street on both sides of the road, with a few abandoned at the stop sign behind them. 10 Yellow Caps and 18 guards met here on the street across from a lot-sized playground. They traveled small because they needed to duck out of sight if a copter flew over. Signs of life brought on bomb attacks. Nobody knew why or who did it. "Well, you're a little young to be leading our guard today," the leader of the Yellow Caps sneered at Ron. He had a bushy gray beard, curly hair, and talked with an accent that sounded like eating the words. Chase knew of him. He was an asshole named Charles, and he always pushed around anyone younger than him. "I'm not young," Ron said. "I mean, I'm 16. That's basically adult." Charles laughed. He reached out and pinched a large section of Ron's cheek, taunting him. Chase watched. Ron looked kind of silly. "You should really be more respectful to your customers, eh?" He yanked Ron to the side by the cheek. "Ow!" Ron grunted. Chase was coming closer, frowning. Ron was a bit of a wuss. Chase couldn't help wanting to rescue his friend. Ron threw him a teary glance. It was like, "Chase, please help me." Charles was now slapping Ron's cheek, saying humiliating things Ron would have to do to prove he was the leader and to properly fulfill the guards' duties. All the guards were routinely warned never to provoke or annoy the Yellow Caps. Be subservient, do whatever they ask, they control the food. And if they didn't, the entire guard would turn on the rebellious member. Chase imagined being kicked half to death by his friends, then being thrown to the Yellow Caps to finish it. He'd seen it happen once. He shook his head hard, trying to forget. I'm not disrespecting you," Ron protested weakly as Charles slapped him again. "Then stop talking and start doing," Charles said, but he had a grip on Ron's shirt. The Yellow Caps saw the bullying as some kind of initiation ritual for the new guard leaders. They laughed as they talked about it when they were visiting guard territory. It happened inside the guards too sometimes. "You'll have to excuse him," Chase interrupted, stepping forward. Damn, his voice was soft like the breeze. Instead of repeating himself, he cleared his throat like how Dad did. "Excuse me!" He belted the words out. This time Charles stopped, turning to him. "What did you just say?" Charles said, an incredulous smile on him. "That's my underling you're slapping around," Chase shouted, to make the words come out at a normal level. "If you want the leader, you'll have to talk to me." The guards were stunned, especially Ron. Ron was totally supposed to be the leader. "Then why's he in the front? Forward guard!" Chase snapped. He was shocked by his own boldness. Guess he was angry. "You think I don't know tactics?" Every one of the Yellow Caps burst out laughing, uproariously. Chase scowled appropriately, like his dad would have. This would help the guys think he was in charge. It would satisfy them to bully him instead of Ron. Charles wiped his eyes. You're what, 7? He laughed. 10, Chase said sourly. They all laughed loudly again for a while. Chase lifted his chin. "Laugh all you want, but I'm captain, and I order you to move out with us." Dusk was falling, so it was about time anyway. Charles stopped laughing suddenly. He leaned forward and leered at Chase. "You said what now?" His breath stank over his yellow teeth, shiny at the points. Chase stood his ground. "Captain, me," he said. Maybe sarcasm was taking it a bit too far. "We're ready to escort you, sir." He scratched his arm, not sure if he was dignified enough. "Not that part." Charles poked his shoulder with his finger, hard enough that his head jerked back. Chase stepped back to balance, glaring at Charles. "So you're the one I should be talking to, eh?" Charles grabbed him by the cheek now, pushing him back a few more steps into the group of guards. "Hey!" Chase grabbed back at Charles' hand, trying to pry it off. "Let go!" "Aren't you a cute one?" Charles grinned. Chase and Ron met eyes nervously for a second. Chase wanted to send the message, "I got this," but he was being yanked around so hard by the cheek, He risked losing his balance in the muddy ground. He couldn't make faces. Charles yanked Chase so close their noses brushed. Chase's left eye was getting stretched out. He pretended to be fearless, but his lips parted and his nostrils flared to breathe in for a fight. He was scared, just not as much as normal. "You want to try that intro again?" Charles said, still half leering. Chase didn't reply. It was better to stay silent if you didn't know what to say. Charles' fingers felt like they were tearing his face off. It burned, and he couldn't even wince because even his eyelids were stretching. Then Charles shoved him back away from himself. Chase caught himself with a hand slapped into a car hood. "Well, if you want to work together now, you're going to need to show me that you can be humble and respectful," Charles said. "Otherwise, how can I trust you?" Holding his cheek and grimacing, Chase looked around fast, noticing that the other Yellowcaps were sharing uncomfortable glances. He didn't answer Charles. "You gotta promise to serve us," Charles said. "You want to win our trust, you gotta be an ally." We're just here to escort you," Chase frowned. "To the market." "And to your guest camps," Charles corrected. "It's part of the deal. We need a place to stay." One of the Yellowcaps, encouraged by the others, cleared his throat at Charles. "Charles, let's just go. He's only 10. "No," Charles said. "No, I want to see what he does," giving Chase a side-eye with his tongue to his lips. Chase said nothing, palms open, face blank like, "What do you want?" Ron nudged him. Chase didn't react, deliberately staying focused on Charles. He wasn't afraid. "Chase," Charles said. "That's your name, yeah?" Chase nodded. "Yes." It was too quiet to be heard again. "Chase, you should say you're sorry for being so rude," Charles smirked. "Mister, how—" "Want me to forgive you?" Charles interrupted. "Get down on your knees, forehead right on the ground, and promise you'll serve us loyally this week. That way I know we can trust you." Chase hesitated, looking at the others, who either shook their heads or made no answer. Ron looked scared, pale. Odd. Chase got on the ground all the time. He didn't see what the big deal was. He knelt down on the cold black mud, lowered his forehead to the ground, and said, "I promise to serve you this week." "Serve loyally, say it." Charles nudged his head with the toe of his boot. Chase sighed. "I promise to serve you loyally this week." Charles grabbed him by the tousled white hair on the back of his head, shoving his forehead hard into the mud. It ground into gravel. "Ouch!" Chase protested, attempting to push his hand off. "Let me up." Charles ground his face into the muddy gravel, then let him go, standing up. Chase wiped his stinging face with his arm, leaving a brown streak down it. He was already getting a sunburn, so he needed to hurry and get back inside. He got up hastily, rubbing dirt off his hands on his waist, as he turned his back to rejoin his group. Ron secretly passed him a piece of jerky. "Thanks," Chase said. Ron never wanted to lead anyway. An older guard put his arm around Chase and tugged him close for a sideways hug. Chase blankly allowed it. Wordlessly, Guy patted him lightly and let him go. "Tell us our formation," one of the guards said quietly to Chase. Chase lifted his chin and cleared his throat. "Formation A for the wide streets," he said, just repeating some words he'd heard. The guards looked at each other with raised eyebrows. "Yes, sir," Guy saluted. "Formation A it is." Guy took up a position next to Charles. He glanced quickly at the tall Yellowcap. "Ron, you'll continue in the lead," Chase ordered. He took up position on the other side of Charles. "Let's move out." Chase got the Yellowcap settled in camp in less than 20 minutes, and guard rotation set for the night. That was all he needed to do. He grinned at Ron, who looked very relieved. Then Shorty told him that Merc wanted to see him.